Alrighty, I want to talk a little bit about beef. So I'm going to make a dish that's a classic Filipino dish called Bistek, B-I-S-T-E-K, Bistek. And it's basically thin slices of beef that are marinated in a mixture of lemon and soy sauce, and then they're pan fried and then topped off with a sauteed sweet onion. And it's served over rice, and it's a delicious home-style meal. And what I like to use for it is a piece of bottom round. And the reason why I like the bottom round is because, you know, typically a piece of meat like this is going to get a little bit tough, but a little bit of marbling in the meat is going to make it so that it's more tender. Now, I generally like to cook my meat medium rare, but this particular dish, it's cooked all the way through. As a matter of fact, you might consider that it's overdone, but that's part of the charm of the dish because it's almost, I want to say, crispy. This is a decent cut of meat for that. I know some people are going to be very upset with me because you'd rather make a pot roast out of it or something, and this would be a great pot roast. I mean, if you look at that level of marbling there, when I take it out of the wrapper, you'll see it even better. And I'm going to rinse it before I use it, but just to illustrate, you see that little bit of intramuscular fat there is what's going to make it a little bit more tender than, let's say, a London broil, which is much leaner. It's still going to be a little bit tough, but I'm going to make these slices as thin as I possibly can so that they fry quickly and brown quickly. So that's part one. First, I'm going to go rinse it, and then I'm going to start slicing it. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to make the slices right off the slab like this. If it's difficult to keep the slices even, I might cut it in half this way and then make smaller slices. That'll make for more fry. Well, maybe not, because it'll take the same space in the pan. Let's see if I can get away with slicing it just this way. So let's see how well I can do. And again, the key is to have a sharp knife, but also, you know, I'm kind of afraid that I'm gonna slip and cut my fingers. So let's see how well I can get that. Okay, that's a very nice thin slice, and it's fairly even, but you see how it's not the full surface of the slab of meat. So I don't know if I can continue in this fashion or if I'm going to need to slice it in half and do it in smaller sections. But I'm going to try to do it on the full slab. So that, again, that's pretty good. It's not paper thin. You can almost see through it, but it's a pretty thin slice of meat. And if I can continue to do that, then that's how I will proceed. Let's do one more. Then I'm going to turn off the camera so you don't see me slice into my hand and you have to go to the hospital. Yeah, that's a smaller piece than I was hoping. You see how it's starting to become uneven, and that is the reason why I might need to just cut it in half. Let's try again. Right, I want to make sure that I'm not going to cut into my hand. And I also want to make sure that I'm getting even slices. See, it's a little bit thicker on this side than it is on that side, and that's going to make for uneven cooking. So I think I will be forced, because that it's not a totally even piece of meat, unless I just, maybe I'll do this. Let's take it right from the middle. If I take that off and put that aside, okay, Now let's see if I can start with a more even section, and I can go nice and thin. And then that one, I'll tackle it later. Yeah, that's pretty even. That is pretty even. If I can continue on this fashion, that's what I'll continue to do. Alrighty. Okay, I'm down to my last slice. You see I've got a pretty thin piece here, and I'm taking it pretty much right in half. So I think I did pretty good. I mean, I think pretty much all of the slices are fairly even. That's a little bit thicker on one side. But I mean, that looks good. And you see there's enough marbling in each slice so that when it pan fries, it's not going to be very tough. Now this last little piece here is going to be special because I'm just going to cube it up and then pan fry it and give it to Lola. Ha ha ha. Yeah, she doesn't know yet, but she's going to be very happy when she sees these little cubes coming her way. So this is just a little piece of meat that I just reserved, and I'm thinking Lola's going to have this. Okay, so the Bistek requires that we marinate that meat in lemon and soy sauce. So I'm just going to roll out a lemon, and I'm going to squeeze it, and then I'm going to put equal parts lemon and soy sauce and a little bit of onion powder, garlic powder. So I'm just going to throw that in there. And then probably this is going to give me, I don't know, a little more than 2 ounces of lemon. I'll match it with 2 ounces of soy sauce and put the powders in, and then get all that meat coated. Okay. And while I've got you here, I'm going to tell you a funny story. A long time ago, I bought Chocolatier magazine, and it said something about using a sieve, and it was a misprint in the magazine. It said use a 5 sieve, F-I-V-E, and the misprint was it should have been F-I-N-E, fine, but me being the literal guy that I am, I went crazy looking for a 5 sieve, only to realize, of course, that it was a misprint. Okay, I'm going to match that with soy sauce in a second. Can you see that? We are at pretty much 2 ounces, which is perfect. So I'm going to match the 2 ounces with 2 ounces of soy sauce. I might go a little bit more. And I'm just going to go above the 4 ounce mark. Okay, and now, I don't know how I got a pit in there because I thought I used the strainer, but I managed to get a pit in there. And now I'm going to put in onion powder, garlic powder, and black pepper. Okay, so here we go. That's onion powder. That's enough. Garlic powder. That's enough. Black pepper, that's enough, and it's all going in this container. Let me get a spoon so I can stir it up. Okay, that's it. So there's my marinade, and I'm just going to layer little bits of meat in there. Make sure all the different sides get coated. And you see, they're not all perfect, but they are pretty even. And this is going to be a very nice Bistek. Oops, oops, oops. I spilled, didn't I? Oh, I hate when that happens. And that's it. Okay, so there it is. All of the Bistek is in there. I'm going to put the lid on, let it soak overnight or 2 nights, it doesn't matter. And then we fry it up. Hey there. So, as we started the other day, we sliced up that beef nice and super thin for the Bistek. And what you see in the pan is some peanut oil over a medium flame. I'm going to let that get hot. It's just regular old peanut oil. We're going to pan fry the little pieces of beef, and we're going to get them maybe just about crispy, a little more well done than I like to make my regular, I like my stuff medium rare. But, for this dish, it's supposed to be really cooked through and almost crispy. So that's what we're going to do. And then after that, we're going to fry up those onions. Alrighty, so let's begin. I'm letting that oil get good and hot, and then we're going to start. Okay, I think the oil is probably hot enough, and yep, it's sizzling. We're going to put in a few of these slices, and you're going to see how crazy they shrink. They shrink pretty small. That's it. Put a few in, and so we don't make a huge super mess, I'm going to cover it with my trusty little screen. And we're going to let them cook. We're going to flip them, and they're going to get nice and crispy. You'll see. You see they're sizzling away, and you see how much they shrank already. And I just want to point out that it smells really, really good. And if you can't smell that, then there's something wrong with your nose. All right. Now you see, those shrank. I didn't even turn them yet. But see how much they shrank? So rather than waste that space, I'm going to occupy the space so I can get done quicker. I'm going to put a fresh one right here. These haven't even been turned yet, but you see, they shrank so much. All right, put that lid back on, and we're going to turn them soon. Alrighty, it's flipping time. So I'm going to flip the original ones. See, they've got some nice color, right? Just going to flip them. And let's make sure the flame is not too high. And be super high. But you see they've got some nice color on them. We leave them go for a little while, and we're going to flip them again. We're going to get them nice and crispy. I'm going to flip the other one now. Okay. And these guys are doing well, but they're not. It's not time yet. It's just not time yet. We're going to cook them. We're going to cook them so that they're just about crispy. Okay. So this is what they're supposed to look like when you make Bistek, like that. Right? That's how they're supposed to look, which is a lot different than when I would normally make a steak. And now, that one's not done yet, but we're going to occupy that pan. And you see why I've got that lid, right? That cover is going to prevent a lot of splash. Alrighty, so now all of the steaks are cooked. I threw the onions in. You see, the onions are just in there. They don't have any color yet. That color, all of that color, is from all the steaks frying. All the goodness that's stuck in the bottom of that pan is now going to get released because the onion is going to release some of its juices and loosen it up. So now that onion is going to cook until it's soft. We're going to do it over a very low flame and just soften up that onion. I'll put the lid back on it though, just to keep it from splashing. You see there's minimal splash. And then later, when the onions are all done, we're gonna throw all that marinade back in there and then bring it to the boil and cook it down. And then that goes on top of the steaks, which are here. I'm gonna take that paper towel out the bottom, dry them up a bit, throw the onions on top, and that's how we serve it. So you see those onions, they're not even cooked really. I mean, they're pretty firm still. They have all that color because the juice from those onions loosened up everything that was left behind with the steaks frying. So all that darkness that from the pan is loosening up, just like if you were to soak the pan in water. And it's going to lend to a wonderful, wonderful flavor. Okay, so now you see what they look like, right? Let's show you. They're very limp, they're cooked, and they've got a lot of color from the pan. Now, we're going to throw in all that marinade, and then we're going to bring that up to the boil. So I'll raise the flame a bit, I'm going to boil it, and then we're going to serve those onions with all that juice over the beef, and that is the classic Bistek, or so I'm told.